Good afternoon, everybody, and a very warm welcome to our third expert interview with our learning master. We are taking things to East Africa today. I'm joined by a colleague of mine, Rachel Waireri, who is the CEO of Knowledge Capital Africa. So Knowledge Capital Africa is really a learning design agency based out of Nairobi, Kenya, and they are doing fantastic work in the learning design space, particularly bearing in mind the African context. So welcome, Rachel, and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Oliver. I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you. Let's jump straight into the interview then. So for you, Rachel, really as an expert in the space, what are the trends in designing impactful learning interventions that you are seeing, particularly for the East African market?
That's a great question, Oliver, because I see that in the last 2 to 3 years, we've definitely gone through a journey in terms of how we design our training or learning programs, whether they're going to be face-to-face or I think obviously with the pandemic, digital learning just accelerated that, it definitely accelerated in that journey. And now we are having conversations about a hybrid model. But one of the things that really comes to the heart of design and creating training programs that have impact is really being able to merge what is a business strategy with a learning outcome and then the delivery option. And we find that when clients are able to articulate how learning fits into their business strategy, everything then becomes quite easy. So it's not so much to say, am I doing a video or am I having a website or am I sharing handouts or am I having a Zoom training? It's really more so of whatever design you choose, how does it fit in back into the business strategy? And for us as Knowledge Capital, that's what we first look at. Even before we get into the conversation of whether this should be on a learning platform, we should build an LMS, we have to go back to the question of how does this fit into the business strategy? Because then at the end of it, it's how then we end up having impactful interventions. So a lot of the conversations start out there. And I would really encourage anybody who is thinking of having a training program to look at along these three aspects.
Thank you so much, Rachel. There are key insights there, and I think for me, what comes up is the question of culture. So for you, in your experience doing these learning designs in Kenya and in East Africa more broadly, is culture and organizational politics an important aspect of the designs that you are doing?
One of the conversations that has been coming up of lately, and maybe part because there was a lot of digital or online courses that have been deployed over the last 2 years, is the question as to whether we are all culturally sensitive in terms of the training programs that we have, whether they're face-to-face or they're or even if they're online. Why? If, for example, the person who is delivering the training is not cognizant of the cultural contexts within Africa, for example, then they will miss the mark. You will miss the learners, and they will not necessarily appreciate then, the nuggets of wisdom that are being shared in the training. I've also come across, in fact, this happened to us once, that the voice of the trainer made a huge difference to the reception of the learners on a digital platform. So, and one of the feedback that they gave is that the person who's talking doesn't sound like me, doesn't look like me, doesn't use the euphemisms that like I do, doesn't use a slang like I do. So they felt that they were lost, and they felt that they were not included, or they didn't feel like they could see themselves in that particular training. And so then when we are calling them to, to take action or to make certain leadership decisions, there's this at the back of their minds. They're like, well, it's not kind of what my situation is not the same as what you've taught me. So maybe it will take a bit more time for me to take action on the learnings that I've gained. So one of the things that then we have implemented is ensuring that every design project has a component of inclusivity to make sure that the person on the other end of the screen resonates with the audiences that this training is targeted for.
So what is the concept of inclusive learning design, and how is this a key advantage for doing effective learning design on the continent?
We're basically saying that whatever elements that we use to put a training program together resonates with the audience who are going to consume that training. And in as much as we just talked about trainers, you know, who's the trainer, who's the voice, but it even comes down to even sometimes the colors that you use in your training program or the branding that you use in your training program. Because then if it's too, for example, European or Asian or American, and your audience is significantly African, there's already a disconnect. We have to know our audience, and that's the number one question that I also ask.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Absolutely fantastic, fascinating, interesting stuff that we've been talking about. Folks, that is all the time we have left for the interview. Please feel free to follow us on LinkedIn, be a part of the discussion and debate on LinkedIn. Feel free to send us your questions and we will do our best to answer them. Thank you very much.